which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Please note for the record that all council members are present except for Council Member Cunningham.
Okay, brings us to adoption of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. We have a working menu here. Okay, that brings us to oral communications number 1 for any item that is not on the agenda, and anybody wishes to speak to the council on it right now, it's your chance. Otherwise, you have to wait till the end of the meeting. Not seeing any takers. We have presentations and proclamation. And the first item A, which is a proclamation recognizing April 22nd to the 28th, 2018 as Mosquito Awareness Week. So, proclamation of the City of Brisbane recognizing Mosquito Awareness Week, April 22nd to 28th, 2018. Whereas mosquito and vector-borne diseases continue to cause illness and death in California, including 536 illnesses and 41 deaths from West Nile virus in 2017. And whereas the continued spread of invasive Aedes mosquitoes in California poses a significant threat to public health due to the potential of these mosquitoes to transmit diseases such as Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. How do you say that?
Chikungunya.
Chikungunya.
Chikungunya. Close. Close.
I'll let you say it. Viruses. And whereas San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District's program is a science-based program of integrated vector management, IVM, aimed at reducing disease vectors and the diseases they transmit. And whereas education and awareness are critical to the effective mosquito and vector control in San Mateo County and throughout California. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Brisbane hereby declares that the week of April 22nd through 28th, 2018 be recognized as Mosquito Awareness Week. And here to receive it is our very own Carolyn Parker, representative for Mosquito District.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you take an opportunity to say something or at least pronounce that word.
No, I'm not going to pronounce it.
Let her do it. Introduce your colleague there.
I would like to introduce Megan C. Bay. She's a public health education and outreach officer and our public information officer for the San Mateo County Mosquito Vector and Control District.
Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn. I'd just like to take a moment to thank you for recognizing Mosquito Awareness Week. As it stands, our new total for illnesses caused by West Nile virus in California is 533, and we've had 44 deaths. In light of that, I'd just like to ask the residents of Brisbane to please help us out. We're entering West Nile virus season here as we go into the warmer part of the year. The risk is going to be a little bit higher, and we'd like everyone to help us out by checking around their property for standing water, dumping and draining as needed. And if there's something that can't be dumped out or turned over, to please give us a call at the district. We have some other options, some long-term water treatments. We can supply you with mosquito-eating fish. We can help you figure out how to take care of those things so that we're not posing a risk to human health by West Nile virus. And also, if there are mosquitoes in the area, you don't know where they're coming from, we can send a technician out. These guys are excellent detectives. They'll spend as much time as needed to figure out what the source of that problem is and how to get it stopped so that we can all be safe and healthy in our neighborhoods. And if you'd like to learn more about what it is we do or meet some of those technicians, we're going to be holding an open house next Thursday, a week from today. It's going to be from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at our office in Burlingame. We're right there close to the Millbrae BART station. And we'd love to have everyone stop by and learn more about what we do and how they can help us keep the county safe. Thank you so much.
Well, before you leave, you got to pronounce that word for us. So.
The disease is called chikungunya. And it comes from a word which means bending over, because it's a very painful disease, and people who have it walk bent over because they're in pain.
And it does sound like a disease.
Yes, it's a very unpleasant one, but fortunately not usually fatal.
Yeah, I know the dengue is real popular in South Pacific Islands.
Yes, it is. I believe they have an outbreak in American Samoa right now.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Carolyn, you have anything to add? That was an opportunity.
Well, I know I've been asking one council member if he'd come by, and I really think it's incredibly interesting to see what the San Mateo County Mosquito District is doing. Another thing that wasn't brought up is that if we see dead birds or dead rodents or dead squirrels, please call the San Mateo County Mosquito Vector Control District, because they will come by and pick it up and check to see if the animal is carrying any diseases, and that just adds to the knowledge base that we have. Ticks we're lucky. Our ticks up here do not have anything that can, that can cause problems up on this part of San Bruno Mountain. Any other part of San Bruno Mountain?
It's a low level infection in the ticks, not zero.
Yeah. Oh, for
If you
this
could
area
say it
as
on
well?
the microphone, that way
Yeah.
viewers can hear it too.
Sure. Overall, countywide, between 1.5% and 3% of our ticks are carrying at least one pathogen that can cause illness in humans, which for the U.S. is not a high rate, but you keep in mind it only takes one tick bite to catch the disease, so we do recommend caution.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, and item B under presentations, we have Voters' Choice Act presentation by Elections Manager and Deputy Assessor and County Clerk Recorder, Diana Izagiri. Diana?
Good evening. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak. Mr. Church would be here, of course, but he is in Daly City tonight at a event with the Secretary of State. They're hosting it along with Senator Weiner and Assemblymember Phil Ting. So he's off doing that, and so here I am, more than happy to do this. So I do have a slide presentation, and I'll try to go through it a little bit quickly. I understand some of you are familiar with the SB 450, and some are not. And hopefully everyone's received their postcard in the mail. That's our first direct voter contact, letting everyone know about this. So for those who don't know, what is SB 450, also known as the California Voters' Choice Act? It's landmark legislation. It's technically a historical election because it fundamentally transforms our polling places into vote centers. And it's an all-mailed ballot election, and actually you get to choose how and when you vote and how you return your vote. So here we have 14 counties that were selected to go ahead and be part of this California Voters' Choice Act, but 5 counties went ahead and decided to do it. We're kind of the guinea pigs of this because it's all-encompassing, it's very complex, and all eyes are on San Mateo County and Madera, Napa, Sacramento for doing this. Did I get them all? There should have been 5. Yeah, Sacramento. So I don't know how many remember the AB 2028, which we did in 2015, which was also an all-mailed ballot election. Mm-hmm. The difference in that one is that it was applying only to local elections. This one is applying to presidential and gubernatorial and any other type of election. The other difference is it's discretionary at the county level, which means that the counties can opt to do it. I think in AB 2028, we had to get some buy-in from the city councils as well. And this one, the law was written differently. So as I was talking, we have some voting options. And I'm going to go through them over here like this. all mail ballot. So every voter is going to get a ballot in the mail. And our postcard was kind of a test to kind of get that out there and see how many come back undeliverable, what addresses, are a problem, and also if voters have some questions, they can get a hold of us a little bit before the election. We can make some corrections to their addresses. So it's a really great idea. We'll have 2 more coming along. The ballots are going to be mailed 29 days before the election, and for us that means May 7. The return envelopes are postage paid, and that's unique for San Mateo County because not all counties are doing that. So hats off to Mr. Church. And ballots, of course, are going to be provided in Spanish, Chinese, and English because of federal regulations. The census, 5% of population is requiring those languages. And, of course, your ballots must be postmarked by Election Day, and we have to receive them in 3 days. So by June 8, we need to receive your ballot if you're going to put them in the mail. We have vote centers. Vote centers differ from polling places. If you recall, polling places, you were assigned a polling place in your neighborhood, and it was open on Election Day only from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now we have vote centers which are going to be open some as early as 29 days before the election. We always had Tower Road, our election facility at Tower Road, as a vote center, and our facility in Redwood City. Then we had added South San Francisco Library, and for this election we're also adding East Palo Alto, a location in East Palo Alto. So we're having 4 total that are open 29 days before the election, and they'll be open for 2 weekends, which is great. And it looks like we were able to get at least 1 vote center in each city or town, and I really want to thank the city of Brisbane for opening up this one as a 4-day voting center, because that's going to be really great for your citizens to come to a familiar place that they know and be able to vote here.
Yeah, we've actually only had one for the last 45 years. Everybody goes to the same place.
Everybody goes
It
to the same
used to be
place.
that way, but
Yeah,
used to have 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
It changed in the 70s.
Okay. Voters can receive a replacement ballot at your vote center, and they'll be able to drop off their ballot at your vote center. Something that is new, this is one of the new pieces of legislation that came through, is conditional voter registration. It's available on site, so it'll be available here. And what that means is voters are able to come in and register to vote and vote at the same time. So it's like a one-stop shop, which is really, we think, going to increase voter participation. The reason we can do that is because we're going to have real-time access to our VoteCal database, which means someone comes in and they want to register to vote. We'll be able to look them up and see if they already returned a ballot, or if they registered, went somewhere else to another vote center, did something like that. So we're going to be able to have great security on that. We'll have also multilingual and accessibility for voters. We'll make sure that we have 3 devices per vote center to make sure that we're covered for that. Here we want to talk again about how many days are these open. They're going to open in waves. So the first sweep, there'll be 29 days before the election, 4 vote centers that I mentioned to you. So that'll be May 7. And then 10 days before the election, we'll have another one per 50,000 registered voters. So we'll have a total of 9, because 5 more will open. And actually, we provided for you a list of all these, so you can take a look at all of those. And then 3 days before the election, we have them opening for 4 days. And that's the kind that you are. You'll be opening 4 days, 3 days before the election. So we'll have a total of 39 vote centers across the county. And again, what's really nice is, let's say you live in Brisbane, but you work, in San Mateo, you'd be able to go vote in San Mateo. You don't have to vote at your polling place anymore. You can vote wherever you are, wherever it's convenient for you. And that's being done because of our real-time computers. So we're hoping that will really help out voters. I think it will. So again, our technology, this is how we're going to be able to do this. We're going to have 210 laptops spread out among these vote centers. We have VPNs for security, and we're using Wi-Fi connections. We'll also have on-demand ballot printing systems. That's another thing that's new. I don't know if you remember before, but what was nice, what was easy about your polling place is one kind of ballot for everybody that's going to show up there. But now anybody can show up to any. We need to have every kind of ballot style that we have. I believe we have 31 types for this election, times 3 because of the 3 different languages. So what we have is an actual printer that will print your ballot. So we'll look you up, we'll find out what ballot type you should get, and then we'll walk over to the printer, we'll print it out, and we get a ballot. So there's no more waste, and we don't have to guess at our turnout. We'll print only what we need. But that's pretty exciting.
All right, so what you're saying is then someone from Brisbane could be in San Bruno. I'm going to vote in the Brisbane. There isn't a local Brisbane race, but say there was in San Bruno at the vote center, they could print out a Brisbane a ballot for that had the Brisbane races in it, and that person could vote and then submit it in San Bruno.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Before you would have to probably do a provisional ballot and not get your exact measures on there or races. You could vote on something statewide or federal. So this is a big improvement. We're really excited about being able to provide this.
Yeah, it's very integrated.
So, ballot drop boxes. We're going to have, Sarah, you probably have to help me with this. Yes, we're going to have 28 ballot drop boxes. This is in addition to the vote centers. So, for folks who maybe don't want to, maybe they waited too late to drop something in the mail to return it on time to get it postmarked, or not comfortable dropping something in the post office for whatever reason, we're going to have drop boxes where you can, you're going to save us some money because we're not going to process the stamp, but more than that, you can make sure it's almost like delivering it to our hands, because election staff will go and empty those boxes and take them straight to the election center and start processing them. So 4 of them are going to be 24 hours. So you don't have to go into a building. You can just go and drop them off. Let's say you work graveyard, you can go drop off your ballot. And we're really excited to be providing those. They're military grade too. Super secure. This just kind of gives you a general idea of how we spread them out among the county. There was lots of criteria that had to be met in order to place them where we did. Close to transportation areas, close to libraries, just population concentrations, demographics, all kinds of demographics. And so there you go. And after the election, we'll be checking out and see which ones got used the most and where can we tweak them. It's really going to be interesting to see those statistics, and of course we'll make those available. Of course, our election administration plan has been approved by the Secretary of State, we're very happy to say. And in our plan, which is available online at our website, you can see some of our voter education and outreach plans, what things we want to do with that, and also just what's our strategy for this election. Mr. Church, bless you. Mr. Church has put together actually a education and outreach committee, advisory committee, to assist with some of these things. We're really lucky in San Mateo County to have a lot of community organizations such as the League of Women Voters, just a lot of great groups that want to help with this project. And so some of the things that they wanted to do was be able to collaborate with us and make sure that we didn't miss any communities or we didn't double up on some things. And so we created a committee to help us continue to get community input on that. And anybody's welcome. And again, we post that on our website when we're going to have those. We're having one next Monday from 5 to 7 at Redwood Shores. Yeah. This is really new. This is kind of fun. We're going to have a digital I voted sticker for folks. Because one of the big complaints of vote by mail is you don't get your sticker, right? So you can log into our website after you've submitted your ballot. You can check and see the status of your ballot, and then you'll have the opportunity to download your I voted sticker, and you can use it on your Facebook, on your Twitter, wherever you want to use it. And of course, our election is June 5, and our next one is November 6th. And again, I spoke about conditional voter registration. And that's it. So are there any questions?
Thank you,
I'll do
Diana.
that
Any
pretty
council
quickly.
questions?
Yeah, I just got a couple.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a great presentation,
Oh,
and
thank you.
yeah, I mean, I think it's great that San Mateo County is really taking a leadership role in trying to get more people to vote. I mean, that's what democracy is all about. You know, the 29 days before the election to be able to vote, is that something new? Has it always been 29 days before? Or?
You know, it's not actually in the law. The law requires 10 days before the election, but San Mateo County has traditionally had 29 days.
It has been 29 days.
Yeah, it has
Wow.
been for I'm not sure how long.
It has been? Okay.
Yeah.
And then the postage paid. So that's something that's unique to San Mateo County. Other counties don't provide that or don't offer that?
Oh, none of the Voters' Choice Act County. Thank you for the correction.
Okay.
Right. So some do apparently, but not. And forgive me, I'm new. I'm not even a year on the job, but I know elections well. So yeah, I know for the Voters' Choice Act counties, we are providing that. It's really a great thing. We're excited. A lot of our community members are really thinking that that's important to do.
Absolutely. And then, so then when someone goes to a vote center and they vote, then they can go online and see to make sure that their vote was logged in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And then, so you said we're going to have a vote center in Brisbane?
Yes, correct.
Here at City Hall.
It's going to be here in City Hall. It's
It'll
going to
be
be right
here in this
Okay.
building.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
So you'll get to see our setup. You'll get to see all our machines, and hopefully, you know, all your neighbors and friends will come down and utilize it, or maybe they'll just decide to use their ballot at home that they have in their hand, and that's fine too.
Just bring it to the
Vote
ballot
early.
box.
They can vote it and then just bring it here to the box,
Yeah.
and we'll get it picked up. Super excited.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Diana. All right, very good. So hopefully this goes smoothly, you know. Yeah, first real cut at it, so. Okay, that brings us to consent calendar. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items, which is adopt city council minutes of March 22nd, city council minutes of April 5th, resolution 2018-17, which has become associate member of the California Enterprise Development Association. This has to do with the property assessed clean energy financing program. And also 2018-28, which is to become an associate member of the Golden State Finance Authority, also for the property assessed clean energy. And resolution 2018-30, amending the CIP program to include crack seal of various city streets, and resolution 2018-31, authorizing the execution of the Clean Vessel Act grants agreement with the state of California. And lastly, resolution 2000-26 for open space and ecology committee appointment for a term through January 2022 for Ross Dykes. Okay. So does anybody wish to pull anything off the consent calendar?
I would like to pull items C and D.
Okay. C and D, and do we have a motion for A, B, E, and F?
I will make a motion to approve A, B, E, F, and G.
And G. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? All right, Terry, C and D.
Okay. Item C is the 2018-27, which is the Fig Tree Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing Program. I contacted our city attorney earlier today to ask him about this, and I had a concern on section 9, which is foreclosures, and it includes the last statement in that paragraph says it includes accelerated foreclosure pursuant to the program report. And that sort of scared me. And so I asked him to give me what that means. That's on, they're not pages, so I can't give you a page number, but it's about the 5th page in, Section 9 foreclosures. But there's no attached program report, and the city manager was not able on the short notice to get the information that would make me comfortable with the program, because right at this point it sounds that include accelerated foreclosure sounds a little bit scary, and I would not want to not know the details on that. So I'm asking that we wait to approve the Fig Tree Property Assessed Clean Energy Program until we can get clarification from the city manager or the city attorney on that item.
Ma'am, if it pleases the council, we do have a representative here who might be able to provide some clarification on that.
Okay. Actually, while he's walking up, I read today that people that are on the PACE program, where it goes on their tax rolls, actually pay at a higher rate, or not a higher rate, but they're very good about paying versus the standard property owners. So that came out today, actually.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I know the report you're referencing. And my name's Charles Ward. I'm with Dividend Finance, and we are the program administrator for the Fig Tree. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you
Can
go.
you hear me now? We are the program administrator for the Fig Tree PACE.
Pull that up to a little bit to make it a little taller for you.
There. Oh, thank you. We're the program administrator for the Fig Tree PACE program. And to address your question, the way that the assessments are collected is via the property tax bill. And if the property tax bill is not paid, then we are able to initiate foreclosure proceedings. To date, we have not done any. To the mayor's point, the payments on homes that have PACE assessments on them are repaid at a much higher, or excuse me, much
Frequency.
yeah, much more frequency than homes without them.
And what exactly is the accelerated foreclosure program?
So I'm not sure why it says accelerated, but basically it just means that we are, if the property tax bill is not paid, we are able to initiate foreclosure proceedings.
Well, that would be assumed with any, loan program that goes through property taxes and with any state agency or, enhanced financing district that, foreclosure could be a possibility. But the accelerated foreclosure that doesn't have specifics in it that's available to me now makes me uncomfortable. So, and
Randy, is this a timing issue for this?
No, sir.
No? Okay.
So, are you with Fig Tree or?
No, but I've been.
Yeah, you can come forward, please, so we can capture this on the record. Just give your name for the record, please, yeah.
Eve Perez, I'm the Director of Government Relations for Y-Green, so it's the other PACE program that's on agenda. The reason why I wanted to get up and speak is because I've actually worked with most of the PACE programs and started working with the local governments on local government administered programs first before working on the statewide model that's offered through the JPAs. So with it said, the reason why I wanted to speak on this, and even though I'm not with Fig Tree, is that despite the language saying it's accelerated, it's a traditional default process where the Joint Powers Authority would have the authority to foreclose on a property. However, that's not the intention of any of the JPAs that are offering PACE programs, and the governor set up a $10 million loan loss reserve to backstop any PACE assessments that default. So they're never going to foreclose anyway, because the lender is going to tap into the loan loss reserve to make the property owner whole on that. Or I'm sorry, rather the lender whole on that. So it's not going to progress to that because of the governor's loan loss reserve. Or at least it's not going to go into foreclosure because of the PACE assessment itself. Mm-hmm. It could be due to other items that are on the property taxes, but not the PACE assessment. So
Okay.
hopefully that allays a little bit of concern there in terms of there's coverage there for that PACE assessment should it go into default.
Okay, thank you.
I also know that the county of San Mateo has a program, and maybe somebody on staff is aware of it, maybe Cliff, that if a person's not able to pay their property tax for, financial reasons and stuff like that, that the county actually has a program where they can step in and help out pay for their tax bills. So Terry, do you want to table both of these, or is that answer adequate enough for you?
Well, the thank you for pronouncing the name of the other one, because I didn't know why someone would name it something that you can't pronounce, but Y green makes more sense than the way it's spelled. I have some questions.
Sounds like a disease and a mosquito vector.
It does sound like some Gen X thing. And I have some questions on that one, but not necessarily for you at this moment. But yeah, I would like to table this until we have reassurance from the city attorney that this is something that we want to put out there. And I appreciate that, we got some help from the audience, but I really would like to make sure that this is not a program that we are putting our homeowners at risk by supporting. And
Well, actually, it's a great program. I think Randy could probably speak a little bit to it, but I think it really gives people an opportunity to do clean energy. And I know we've been working on this for a while. So, Randy, you want to just...
We have 2 other programs in there, but the agreements are never completely the same. So I think if a council member and the city attorney aren't completely comfortable with it yet, I think we ought to get those issues resolved before we move along.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I
If-
mean, if
if
you're
it's not
uncomfortable,
time-sensitive.
yeah, it's not time sensitive, and
let's just find out what that means and make sure
Absolutely.
that
Sure.
we're comfortable, because
Okay.
I'm just not. And then on the Y green one, I appreciated that there was no accelerated foreclosure caveat in this one, or at least it wasn't mentioned. But then I wanted to ask staff on the private or public program that this is, and whether it has a funding limit or a size of a program, whether this is something that could be applied to a mid-sized development or an extremely large development. And so I sort of had questions about when a public property would be able to utilize this, and whether a private developer that was putting in infrastructure that would become a public type of thing would be part of this JPA, and to what level that program is effective for developments.
Ms. Perez answered that, ma'am. Those details are a little deeper than I am on the project.
So first of all, a property owner has to already have property taxes set up. So they have to be paying property taxes, and right now it's not set up where nonprofits or public entities are paying property taxes. So it's private entities, private property owners.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, that's sort of what's in here, but this actually says private or public.
So we operate Y Green under SB 555, which is an amendment to Mello-Roos. So it does allow for the financing of public properties that are set up to pay property taxes. But we have not rolled out with that, and with that side of that option.
Okay. Again, I'm wondering if this would be a funding mechanism, since it's similar to a Mello-Roos or a, enhanced financing district type of thing, where the property taxes go hand in hand with the development of the product. If we had information, if this would be applicable in our larger development areas and to what scale that this program is allowing any willing participant to go ahead and put their infrastructure on a property tax through a different channel. It'd be through this channel versus through going through a traditional Melrose or system.
Right. And are you talking about new ground up construction?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not really designed for that. It's more meant for retrofit of existing buildings to make them more energy efficient or water efficient or add renewable energy. So it's
But does
not.
it say that?
Yes. In the documents, yes. So it's
I didn't read it that way when I read it, and so bear with me that I'm
sure.
What page you on, Terry?
Well, I read it last night, and I didn't have the answers to some of
Are
these
you looking
questions.
at-
So
Sure.
that's why I was
Are
trying
you
to
looking at the staff?
So,
find out.
so let me clarify something really quick. So SB 555 actually has a lot more flexibility than AB 811, which the other PACE programs, including the programs that council has already approved, California First and HERO, and Victory are all under AB 811. So AB 811 has a little bit more limitations on what can be financed. Y-Green's actually the only program in the state that's operated under SB 555. But even with the flexibility that the legislation allows, we haven't taken advantage of all of the options that are available through SB 555. New construction is actually one of them.
Okay.
So I believe at some time, the point of operating under SB 555 is that I believe the JPA will at some point try to figure out how to offer the financing for new construction, how to offer the financing for nonprofit, for public buildings, but that hasn't happened yet by the JPA.
Well, and I'm not as worried about it. Again, this is discussion here. I'm not as worried about private or public buildings being part of the program. I'm just worried about, because this on the 555 program analysis on the staff report says it can be used to refinance the acquisition, installation, and improvement of energy efficiency, water conservation, renewable energy, and other improvements to or on private or public buildings. And I just wasn't, and it's a 30 to 40 year payoff on it. And I just didn't know if this would be applicable, and I'll put it out there, to the Baylands and as a financing mechanism for the Baylands that would be put into this type of program. And I know you're not familiar with the Baylands. That's a code word for us.
So is that the question you want to have answered before we pass this then? So that's
Yes.
a question for staff then. Okay, so we'll just table any other questions? that we
No.
have? Okay. Anybody else have any questions on these? Okay, so we're going to table these two items, C and D. Sorry, folks, it had to come back. I know it's a great program, but it's better to have our questions answered. So sorry. All right, so let's move on to the more fun stuff, which is swearing in, administer oath of office to newly appointed open space committee member Ross Dykes.
Just please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ross Dykes,
Do
solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United
and
States
the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and
to
allegiance
the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United
and
States
the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
that I will well
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Congratulations, Ross, and thank you for volunteering. I know that you originally signed up for the Planning Commission, and we appreciate that you have a willingness to serve on the open space and ecology, but also a passion for it, especially kind of living on the mountain. So thank you very much. Okay, so this next item is going to be a public hearing, and you could stay if you want, but you could leave if you want to. We won't be offended, trust me. So. The public hearing, which is to introduce ordinance 626 to amend chapters 17.02, 17.08, 17.10, 17.12, 17.16, and 17.43 of Title 17 zoning of the Brisbane Municipal Code to update accessory dwelling unit regulations in R Brisbane Acres, R2, R3, and SCRO 1 zoning districts consistent with current state law. Staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Council's aware that the state has been getting more and more involved in local housing regulation issues, particularly in regard to accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. A couple of years we amended our ordinance to reflect a series of changes to state law. Again, last year the state made some more changes to state law that did affect our current zoning ordinance. So this amendment before you is to bring our current regulations into compliance with state law. And specifically, the previous state requirements related to requiring or allowing ADUs in any residential zones, single-family residential zones, so is applicable to the RBA and R1 zones. With this latest change, it makes ADUs allowed in any zone that allows residential uses. So not just the R1 and the RBA, but other zones in Brisbane that allow single-family residential or multiple-family residential uses. So that's really the change we needed to make. And so we're adding ADUs, make it clear they're permitted in the R2, R3, and SCRO districts. Those are all zones where single-family or multiple-family residences are allowed. So that's the primary change. There's also some refinement to the RBA requirements because right now the RBA zone, when you're doing density transfer, you're not allowed necessarily to establish a new ADU in every lot that's created through density transfer. And the state law does speak to allowing it in all residential zones and lots. So we wanted to change the regulations so any lots that are created through density transfer would be allowed an ADU as well. So those are changes we're making or recommending be made to comply with state law. So, and the Planning Commission did review and approve those in February of this year by unanimous vote. There is one issue that the Commission did differ from the staff recommendation, and that related to the RBA zone as well, because the RBA zone is the only zone that does not allow ADUs in a non-conforming size lot. So if you have a 15,000 square foot lot in the RBA zone, you're not allowed to have a ADU. And staff was suggesting we eliminate that prohibition because, as you may remember, the council, when considering allowing ADUs in the residential zones, the R1, did eliminate the minimum lot size requirement. You will allow them in any zone as long as they can meet the development standards, the setbacks, FAR, height, etc. So it was our thought that we would eliminate that prohibition on non-conforming lots in the RBA zone. The Planning Commission decided to retain that prohibition. So the ordinance in front of you retains that prohibition on ADUs and non-conforming lots in the RBA zone. So that's something for the council to consider. Otherwise, we'd recommend that you introduce ordinance 626, and I'd take any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Council questions before we open the public hearing? Terry?
I'm not sure it's really a question, but I would ask that when we have ordinances like this that affect multiple housing areas, that we get a little map with it so we know what we're what I'm looking at, because I don't always remember what different areas are. And just to be clear, RBA is the Brisbane Acres, and we keep, ADU, RBA, and pretty soon it's swimming around in my head, and I just wanted the public to be really aware that this does affect all of our housing areas, including the Brisbane Acres.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my first comment, and then I'll be happy to hear what everybody else has to say and the public.
Okay.
The masses.
Is that the only
public.
comment you have, or?
That's the comment I have right now, yes.
Oh, okay. Anybody else? Cliff?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, John, sorry to put you on the spot, but what is, do you know the smallest non-conforming lot in the RBA? Approximately.
I really don't know. I mean, I've seen some down to, that I'm personally familiar with, like 12,000, 10,000 square feet, which is
Okay,
half.
so we don't have a 2,500 square foot lot.
I'm not aware of any lots that small, no.
Okay, and then, so what was the Planning Commission's reluctance to allow some of these non-conforming lots, or the non-conforming lots in the RBA, to have these ADUs, considering the size of these lots?
I don't know that they had a very long or involved discussion about, that particular component of the request. I think the thought was there was a certain minimum we needed to do to comply with state law, and they didn't feel compelled that we needed to go beyond the minimums required to comply with state law. Because that is not an element of state law compliance, the non-conforming lots. So I don't think we really got into a very in-depth conversation about, that issue of how many lots would be affected, and is it in a way, maybe more of a policy matter for the council in any event, how you want to treat these non-conforming lots if they are required to be brought up to standard for access and other issues, whether or not it's something the council would want to consider or not.
Okay, and then I don't know if this would trigger a variance, but could an applicant come before the Planning Commission or the Planning Department and say, I want to do this ADU, I have this non-conforming lot, but it's 12,000 square feet, I got plenty of space, but my lot is kind of configured weird, and I'd like to have this.
We'd consider that the ADU is a use restriction, not a development standard, so they wouldn't be able to obtain a variance.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Madison?
I don't have any questions.
John, I had a question in regard to accessory dwelling units. So the state has, started this program as a mandate, and these are really probably more affordable units, really, for housing, but they don't recognize that from an affordability point for cities for their RENA numbers and stuff like that, do they?
Actually, yes, you can get credit for your ADUs for meeting some of your affordability requirements.
Oh, really?
Isn't that what Hillsborough did?
I
Yeah.
For
believe
their guest houses and their pool houses?
I believe that's true.
Is that new then?
Well, I think it's probably the last two housing element cycles that I'm aware of that you've been able to and I think the state is more and more receptive to it. than they were in the original. I think their thinking has evolved a little bit, and we do try to demonstrate via some survey information about what are some of the rental rates, if we can get that information, if people are willing to share it.
You can actually get credits for, because
For
that
our-
would certainly
part of our RENA,
increasing
yes.
your density, you know,
Absolutely.
in the residential neighborhoods, that people take advantage of that. So, well, that's good then that you're using that. And then to date, how many residents have taken advantage of that?
We had about maybe 7 to 10 permits for the last calendar year, and that would have been since the regulations changed.
And those were from existing houses, or I guess you can say.
Primarily conversions, so there are separate rules for building new versus conversions.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about the RBA issue is if you had a home in the RBA zone that was non-conforming, by state law you would be able to convert part of your home to an ADU by state law, irrespective of the city because our regulations pertain to new ADUs. So that was, again, another consistency issue we had with
So we'd be able to
treating the
use
non-conforming
those-
lots separately than the others.
So we'd be able to use those as credits then towards, our RENA cycle, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Be good to keep track of that, I'm sure. Any other questions with that?
So I did have a question, and maybe you can explain to me the difference between it's the grouped homes versus where they call it, sorry about this. There's multiple family homes, and then they have what they call clustered development. What is the difference in that respect?
Are you looking in the RBA or a different zoning district, or just in general?
I'm looking at, again, these attachment 1, 17 dash or dot 12.055 clustered development.
Right.
What in English is a clustered development?
Cluster. Well,
Less than 40,000 square feet in area.
a clustered, there's two different this is all in the Brisbane Acres, and they're kind of a couple vehicles the city created to encourage conservation of habitat areas. And so the transfer of development rights, or taking the rights off one parcel and transferring to another parcel, and the parcel that is donating the lots is dedicated as open space. So that's considered transfer of development rights, TDR. If you have a parcel that could be either subdivided or accommodate more than one unit in the acres, you have the opportunity of, instead of creating 20,000 square foot lots, you can cluster them, create smaller lots, and then create a larger area that can be set aside as open space, and that's considered a clustered development. So you might allow smaller lots in exchange for conserving a larger piece of undisturbed habitat, as opposed to having a 20,000 square foot lot where the portions of these areas are all in private lot ownership. So the idea is you'd get better. It's larger parcels. They're not going to be disturbed by the homes. They're going to be set aside and not disturbed. So that's a clustered development, is all occurring within the same lot. Transfer of development rights is taking units from one lot to a different lot. I hope that answers the question.
That is clearer, and then the transfer, the density transfer that they are taking from a non-adjacent piece of property. So one piece of property, and that may have a home built on it, or 2 homes or 5 homes, and then you transfer it to another lot and put those 5 homes there. Does this also transfer the accessory dwelling units from that parcel that is the donating parcel to the receiving parcel?
Not currently, and that's what we're trying to change, because right now you can't transfer ADUs or accessory dwelling units from the donating parcel to the receiving parcel. So that's kind of creates an odd situation where you may have, say, you're entitled to 3 lots and now you're going to build 4 in this area where you're doing the transfer of rights. So only 3 of those homes could have an ADU and the 4th would not be able to have an ADU. So it gets an interesting equity question of which lot are you going to decide doesn't get an ADU. So that's part of what we're trying to clean out. And also in state law, we believe that's not allowed under state law, that if you allow, you're calling that a conforming lot because it does comply with the zoning, that we'd be obligated to allow each of those lots that are created to have an ADU. That's our feeling. That's what the state law would require.
But that's not what's in this right now. That would be something that's...
No, that was one of the changes that we recommended in conformance with state law, and the Planning Commission concurred with that.
Yeah.
The only situation we did not address was pre-existing non-conforming lots. So lots that are less than 20,000 square feet that aren't involved in any transfer of development rights or clustering. If someone wanted to build a home on a 15,000 square foot lot in the acres, they would not be able to have an ADU under the current regulations or as the regulations as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Terry? Okay, so we're going to open the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak on this matter, now's your time to speak before the council. And not seeing any takers.
Make a motion, close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion, a second, close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is now closed. Council's pleasure.
I would make a motion to approve what was approved by the Planning Commission, Ordinance 626, but I would rather not approve the non-conforming lot ADU.
I'm just kind of curious why you wouldn't allow that. I mean, if the smallest lot's 12,000 square feet, approximately, that's a pretty big lot.
It is a big lot, and part of the my idea of what the Brisbane acres set aside and the size of the lots and why it's different from in the center of Brisbane and is different for a variety of reasons, but a lot of it is topography and having the buffer zones and having a lesser density because of the wild habitat interface. And so I would just rather not open that non-conforming lot can of worms at this point, personally.
Yeah, okay. I have a question for staff. The ADA unit, are there certain restrictions on how big that can be?
There's size limitations, and there's also provisions that comply with development standards in terms of setbacks, height, lot coverage, et cetera, et cetera.
So what, I guess the ADU size is determined by the size of the single-family house?
1,000 feet, isn't it? It's maximum 1,000, a maximum of 1,000 square feet.
Maybe 1,000 square feet. Okay.
I'm okay with doing that, Terry. I'm okay with allowing it for the smaller size non-conforming. I think it allows people who've been pre-existing for a long time that we're not exempting them, and I'm not as concerned about being next to habitat because I think there's very few of these in the city that it applies to.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, we've bought in so many of the prime habitat acres. Likelihood of a house being built in prime habitat, I think, is very remote. It would be in a part of the Brisbane acres that's really kind of part of Brisbane, residential. So, I just don't think it's fair to those property owners who have that non-conforming lot, even though it's a pretty good sized lot, to be denied something that everyone else is allowed. So, I think it would be good to have consistency. So I would be inclined with the mayor to take staff's recommendation by allowing the non-conforming existing lots to have ADU capabilities.
Addison.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well. I think, I think that's the most equitable decision from my perspective. That if it's allowed everywhere else, and then it should be allowed within the acres. And I don't believe that we're gonna get a house like you said in prime habitat. I think if anything, it'll be in a place where it makes sense. And I also think that consistency is important. And so I think that staff's recommendation is a good one, and I'm happy to support that.
Okay, so entertain a motion to override the first motion for that. Because Terry made a motion to prove it as it is without that change. If we don't have a second, that motion dies. Terry, any other?
Nope.
So somebody want to make a motion with that change?
Okay. So, all right. So I make a motion to introduce ordinance number 626, but also allowing the non-conforming RBA lots to allow ADU units.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, 3-1. All right, old business discussion about revising the public art implementation guidelines continued from our last city council meeting. So, Stuart.
Yes, hopefully I captured what the city council was talking about at the last meeting. The changes that were made to the implementation guidelines. Hopefully it makes it a little bit easier to understand. First, there was the reduction from 3 Parks and Recreation Commissioners to 2 Parks and Recreation Commissioners, allowing 1 additional community or business member to be on the Public Art Advisory Committee. And then second, to make it a little bit better understood, the Public Art Advisory Committee is the Public Art Selection Committee, with the addition of 1 or 2 community members who are within a quarter mile of the site of the public art spot piece, where it's being suggested it would be put. And the reason for this was to ensure that the piece of public art has at least some local community input as to whether or not it's appropriate for that area. So we don't get some pieces that are out of place in the community the area that they're in. So that is what I heard from the city council at the last meeting. Hopefully I captured it correctly.
What's the question? Gary.
I'm just the one on the seat tonight. I appreciate it because I did see that was captured, what we had discussed. I am sort of questioning, and I understand that the 2 floating members of the Public Art Selection Committee should be local to the area or a business owner in the area or that kind of thing. I think the quarter mile is like 2 blocks.
I chose that out of the
thin air.
thin air.
And I
Your
think
radius?
quarter mile is
It's a very small area.
It's a very small area,
Yes.
and to find one or two people who may even be interested in that, let's say if it were at the Village Shopping Center, and I'm just going to drop the thing down there, to have to be within a quarter mile of the Brisbane Village Shopping Center seems a little
Restrictive?
restrictive.
My first thought was a half a mile, and I was thinking a half a mile might be too big of a distance.
I
was what my
think you
thought
put
was.
it in there just to see if we read it.
Well,
No, I mean, I was
for me,
thinking a half a mile seems like a lot
if
in
it's
this
a
town.
piece of art, and let's put it on Valley Drive. If it's at the beginning of Valley Drive, then no one at the end of Valley Drive or even a quarter of the way down Valley Drive is going to have a say in it. I think quarter mile is too restrictive to put in this,
You could
but
just leave it general and just say, like, it's up to the discretion of the committee. They can choose somebody that they feel was an appropriate voice for the area in which the
piece is
piece
going
is
to be
gonna go.
placed. That's fine with me. I just think the quarter mile is too restrictive.
Would it be more correct to see if they had more of a vested interest in a sense, or?
Well,
Yeah,
I think what the concern is always, and Kevin expresses it, is that there's a piece in Visitation Valley which is streetlights looking like an octopus overlooking the street corner,
Yeah, I know the one.
right? And it's
I think you referred to it as a hydra.
right. So it's that you don't want to get into something where it's out of place for that community.
Yeah.
And so if you say that it's somebody who has an interest in public art located someplace, you might get somebody who has that kind of idea. It's not quite in their neighborhood, and they're willing to put something that may be more avant-garde than the neighborhood would like. And that's why I was trying to restrict it within.
We have 7 other members
Yeah, there's a-
that
yeah.
are going to put the damper on
There's
somebody
checks and
putting
balances.
a naked lady statue where it doesn't belong. I mean, or Hydra or
Right,
whatever.
and from that perspective, maybe you don't want to have any additional members because you already have community members in both the city council and the Parks and Recreation Commission and the 3 that you've appointed. So, I mean, you already have community members.
I think that Kevin was very adamant about having someone who, on the selection committee, being part of the development or the local neighborhood, and so I think leaving that in there respects his wishes. I just think we could be a little more open on the.
I can change. We can change the language if the city council would like to, basically saying what Councilmember O'Connell said. A member, 1 or 2 members of the local neighborhood or business development, and leave it broad enough
Yeah.
so that way the selection committee can determine what that means.
Leave it to the determination of the other 7
Right.
members.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we can change that language,
Yeah.
I agree.
and you can make that. I don't think I don't need to bring that back.
Okay. Good with you, Terry?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Works.
Is it- Okay. So,
Oh, wait a minute. Let me. One other comment that I had on this. On page 4 of the redlined version, privately installed public art, that number 2, the developer must contract with the services of an artist for any public art project, and that they will provide the work
Vita.
of the art consultant or artist.
Right.
So that's just meaning that they need to prove the artist worthiness.
Yes. So what the concern is that you might have what the committee that developed it was concerned with is that you get an engineer putting like a piece of something as part of their concrete stamped into the concrete and saying that's the public art, where you're not really getting an artist to do it. So what the committee was concerned with is they wanted to make sure that it was an artist, and that they would be able to look at what the person's work vita was, what works they have done in the past, to make sure that that would be a true artist and not just an engineer or an architect pretending to be an artist.
yep.
Okay.
Is that
Okay. And then There was one other, with the regards to the selection committee being able to hire a consultant. I think that should have a caveat with council approval.
Okay.
That, they don't just go spend $40,000 on a consultant, that it should come to the council for that.
Yes, I agree.
It says what it's. I think we tried to capture that where it says the Public Art Selection Committee may also consult with and/or recommend the city contract with. And I think the idea of contract with meant that it would come back to the city council.
Okay.
If you want me to be more clear on that, I can.
City attorney.
I think if that's the
That
understanding.
was the intent, was that
I
a city contract that the council would be involved in.
I ran it by him.
Okay.
There was I was sort of questioning the can or may.
Okay.
Mother, may I or can I? And so it was just not quite clear to me when I was running it through my head.
Mm-hmm. I think the idea was to consult with if it doesn't cost any money, or recommend a city contract to the city council if it does cost money. Was the thought. I could be more clear on that.
Okay.
With that, I'd make a motion to approve the amended implementation guidelines for the public art ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. There's your direction. Consummated with a motion. Okay, that brings us to staff reports, city manager's report on upcoming activities.
Okay, so I have quite a few items that staff has given me tonight. First is that Saturday is Earth Day. There will be a habitat restoration event from 9:30 to 12:30 at the Mission Blue Drive and Monarch. This event will include removal of invasive plant species. T-shirt and lunch will be provided. Scavengers, South San Francisco Scavengers, will also be having an event at their facility at 500 East Jamie Court from noon to 1:30. There will be a Missing Persons Day event conducted by the County Coroner's Office in San Mateo from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for family and friends affected by this. There, as spoken to earlier tonight, the San Mateo County Mosquito Abatement District will be having an open house on Monday, April 26th from 4 to 7 at their offices at 1351 Rollins Road in Burlingame. And finally, on April 30th, there will be an emergency preparedness fair at Skyline College. That will be from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Lot K, and that's hosted by our County Supervisor Dave Canepa's office.
Okay. That brings us to Mayor Council Matters. Discuss possible appointment to the Public Arts Advisory Committee. And I think this had to do with
Dan Carter and the third member of the public. And
right.
I would, if we need to make a motion to approve Dan Carter or offer him the position, is that what staff is looking for?
City Attorney, is that, yeah?
Second.
Okay. All right. So motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Administer the oath of office at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be on May 17th.
You're going to have to memorize it, Ingrid. But just don't be like Chief Justice.
I could memorize it, actually. Don't ask me to do it on air. So, I mean, do it in your office. Lisa does it. Okay, countywide assignments and subcommittee reports. Are there any?
When was our last meeting? The 5th? The 5th.
That's what I'm looking up.
Okay.
So I had a commute.org meeting this morning. It was a great meeting. You know, we had a presentation by a company. Its name is Proterra. It's a bus company, electric bus company. And their Burlingame location, they make the batteries for the buses. And they have a location in Los Angeles in South Carolina where they build the buses. Samtrans will be purchasing 10 of their buses. And, I was talking with Clay earlier today. They broke the record, one of their buses did, for the longest duration for a single charge. And geez, for some reason, I have 1,000 miles in my head. But these buses are pretty amazing. They're very beautiful, and they're going to be out and about in the next couple of years. So yeah.
We can test it from Brisbane to Pacifica and back.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. One of the cool things though about these buses is that because they're electric, they have less maintenance requirements. Mm-hmm. So not only, of course, they don't emit any carbon emissions, but they have the oil, the antifreeze, and the brake system. So with a regular bus, you have to replace the brake pads, every, say, 3 to 4 months. These buses, it's like every 3 years. So, so they're expecting over the course, over the life of these buses, about $4 million in maintenance savings.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's a lot.
It is a lot, and this one particular company is getting a lot of investment attention from some pretty.
That's good.
Pretty big players.
Coming of age, for sure.
It is.
Yeah, and I think the more the electric cars are coming out, that a lot more money is being put into battery technology, of course, just like what solar was, come out in the 60s, that, now it's, almost needed. And so, a lot of companies have been putting that money towards it and drives the cost down. So that's
absolutely.
And the efficiency. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it just they did mention that they're growing out of their space in Burlingame, so I didn't mention anything at the meeting. But yeah, and these solar panels, these batteries are giant, right? So they have 4 of them, and they go underneath the bus.
You know what type of batteries they are? Like
they're
cadmium or
they can reuse them. So they're not, batteries that get disposed. Yeah. So the technology is really advancing very quickly, and it's pretty exciting.
Lithium ion? They're not lithium ion, or?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Any other?
That's it.
That's it. Madison, you remember any?
Yeah, Cliff and I met from economic development.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We went on a tour of Frito-Lay kind of parcel area, and they had. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too far into it, but anyway, we went there and we looked around. Okay, I think that's enough elaboration, right? Sure.
Just that we'll be bringing it back to a closed session in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then Clark and I and Clay met with Jan Pepper, who's the executive director of PCE. Just kind of talked to her about, what are our kind of energy goals, and it's more just like a relaxed conversation and just about Brisbane in general. She just kind of wanted to familiarize herself with us and our community. So we met with her about that. And then Karen and I met regarding public information and technology subcommittee. And she has a really strong desire to bring forth a decorum and social media policy. So I think that Michael is working on something that should be coming back to the council pretty soon. And that's all I had.
Jerry?
The mayor and I met on an infrastructure subcommittee and discussed garbage rates.
Yeah, and this year we're up, I don't know if you recall, but every 3 years we look at the basket rates of a number of jurisdictions in the Bay Area, what they are, and then they take average of that, 80% of average, and then that's what the rate would be. So this year it's actually higher than what the CPI is, but with Recology, I think it's more CPI related, right? And so there's a differential in the rates, but this year it's done differently. Each one's done differently. So, and with our contract with South San Francisco Scavenger shows that we have this 3-year basket schedule on. And we've had that for a long time, so that'll be coming for the whole council, so. That's it. Any other reports?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, just that in the past, the council had a planning interest or planning issues subcommittee. I believe Terry and Lori had been on that committee, and somehow or another we didn't include that on the list for this year. You do have a planning liaisons committee, which is Cliff and Terry, but we did want to bring back a couple of different issues to that committee. One of them has to do with the various cannabis regulation issues you asked us to look at, and I think we were also down the line looking at the Airbnb issue, which has been before, I believe, Cliff and Terry last year. So anyway,
We did look at that last year, and I still have a lot of interest in the Airbnb issues, and so if you want me to continue on that subcommittee, I would.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, so I guess I would then be appointed to that subcommittee with Terry.
Yeah, we could just kind of blend the planning commission liaison with the planning issue.
Yeah,
interest.
just
Okay.
add a sidebar.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
works.
So
Okay.
I just,
All right.
okay,
Let's
that's
pass
the way we'll
into,
handle it.
So let it be said, so let it be done.
How'd I get out of that committee for 6 months?
All
You
right.
don't want to be on it?
No, I do.
No.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, we
No, I was asking.
forgot about it for 6 months.
He was pointing at me, and I didn't know.
Well, I just think because you gave it the spot on the 2x2, so you're good. All right.
I'm okay. I think I'm on the most subcommittees, to be honest. Some require less work than others, but
How did
I'm
that
sure I'll
happen?
find
See,
one.
I remember last year somebody saying, I don't get the things I want.
And
Look what I got.
And
That's what
perhaps
I
as a
bargained for.
former planning
There you go.
commission,
Loaded you up on this.
Commissioner Cunningham might be interested in that.
Oh yeah, she might.
Yeah.
But it
Because
sounds like
she is
Cliff
on, I think, fewer subcommittees. If you want to wait until Commissioner Cunningham is,
We can
able
put it
to
on your
discuss
next
that.
meeting for discussion.
Just ask her.
Just
I
ask
mean,
her?
Yeah.
And
when you,
in lieu
Yeah.
of whom?
yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Cliff? Okay.
Yeah.
either one.
All right.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I just don't want to be, well, okay.
All right.
I don't want to appoint your,
Just give her opportunity to see if she's interested.
Right.
If she's not, then
She's not. Okay. I'm interested.
However
That's
you want to
okay.
sell it.
Keep up the good work. Okay, item C, which is city council meeting schedule, and so the only change on here is what's highlighted in yellow.
yeah, the May
Proposed.
24th would be a closed session. We'd start at 6:30.
I'm happy to do that. I'll just note that I'll be missing the PCE meeting.
What?
I'll be missing the PCE meeting, which
Oh, and then I think I probably have a meeting that I'll be missing.
The
I'm not crying over that,
Bummer.
but
Yeah.
just put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is
So what's the date?
May 24th.
Oh, Tuesday,
No, should be a Thursday,
It's a Thursday.
April,
May 24th.
May 24th. Yeah, I have Airport Land Use Committee and High Speed Rail that night.
What time?
They start at 4:30 and go till 8:30.
Yeah,
Unless you
that-
want to do the 23rd, which is a Wednesday, it would be a closed session, so it'd be in the conference room.
It's more challenging for me, actually.
They have been having problems getting quorum on both those committees.
Are those real decision-making committees?
Airport land use, yes, they do make decisions.
What time is that from?
They start airport land uses at 4, and the other one's at 5:30.
Okay.
But
Maybe we can move closed session to 7:30, since is it closed session only?
Yeah, we could do that.
And maybe, Terry,
Or
are you
7.
okay with missing your second meeting?
If we moved it at 7, then you just skip the high-speed rail one? I mean, that's not a decision-making group, high-speed rail, right? That's what they just...
No, but it's important and they need a quorum, but I'll do whatever you want me to do.
Yeah.
It's just, hard to schedule meetings when I already have
Meetings.
commitments.
Yeah.
You want to do 7:30 that night then, for the closed session?
I'll leave that part up to Terry.
Well, I've got to get from, the ones in Burlingame, but it means that I'm not. It's usually done by 5. So, whatever.
I mean, what time do you want to do that night?
Do you prefer 7:30 or 6:30?
If you went to 1, you went to...
I would have difficult time getting here for a 6:30 meeting.
Okay. Let's
Because, I need to, I start work
Yeah,
in the morning and
that's why I'm asking.
I have to.
You want to do 7:30 or 7 or 8 o'clock?
Either one, either 7 or 7:30, because, any later than that, and I'll have been working for 12 hours, and then I'm not at my best.
Okay.
Let's just do it at 7:30 because 7's kind of a random time. We never have meetings
7:30?
at 7.
7:30 is fine.
Yeah. So this is the 24th?
24th, yeah.
Okay.
Ingrid, you have a special dinner for Terry.
Yeah, maybe
Only.
some snacks.
Well, this is going to be a closed session.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate to eat. For me.
Okay.
Well,
Ooh.
don't do it for me.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
Okay. All right. That brings us to written communications, which had 2 in the month of April thus far. One from Kathy Chu and one from Becky Dotson on 4/6 and 4/9 respectively. That's it. And that brings us to oral
We didn't get a copy of or maybe we got them before. Can anybody remind me what the Becky Dodson communication was?
Ingrid?
That was the gun buyback.
Becky, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was it. Okay, so it brings us to oral communications number 2, and there's nobody left in the audience, so we'll adjourn.
Thank you.
Right on the dot.
Coming to elections in the counties of Madera, Napa, Nevada, Sacramento, and San Mateo in 2018. These changes will improve when, where, and how you vote. If you live in one of these counties, all registered voters will receive their ballot in the mail weeks before the election. You have 3 choices for how to vote. First, you can vote by mail. You can mail your completed ballot as soon as you receive it. Your next choice is to drop off your ballot at a designated county drop box. drop your completed ballot off into secure and clearly marked drop boxes that will be located conveniently across your county. Your third choice is to go to any county vote center and vote in person. These vote centers will resemble a traditional polling place, but offer voters more options. Vote centers will be open up to 11 days in a row, and at each location you can vote in person, drop off your completed vote-by-mail ballot, get help with any questions, get voting materials in multiple languages, vote with an accessible voting machine, and register to vote and vote on the same day. The California Voters' Choice Act will make voting more convenient and accessible in the counties of Madera, Napa, Nevada, Sacramento, and San Mateo in 2018. Learn more at voterschoice.sos.ca.gov.